Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of At the Boundary, the podcast from the Global and National Security Institute at the University of South Florida. I'm Jim Cardoso, Senior Director for GNSI and your host for At the Boundary. Today on the podcast, we're going to hear from a group of students from USF and other universities who are playing important roles as our Future Strategist Program prepares to host its second National Security Conference as part of GNSI's 2026 International Security Experience. We're always excited to highlight our FSP students and their guests as part of At the Boundary. We'll bring them on in the conversation in just a few minutes. First, though, a couple updates. 2 weeks ago, GNSI Executive Director, retired Marine Corps General Frank McKenzie, was selected as the next president of the Citadel Military College of South Carolina. It's his alma mater, class of 79, and he'll be taking over one of the country's most prestigious military colleges. His first day on the new job will be July 1st. General McKenzie's strategic vision has set the conditions for long-term success of our student-focused initiatives, which are really taking off, preparing the next generation of national security leaders even as he departs. The Future Strategist Program has grown to over 80 students already, and they're taking central roles in many national security-related activities at USF. As an example, 4 of them just presented research related to nuclear policy to the audience at GNSI Tampa Summit 6. Many FSP students are also taking advantage of our mentorship program, connecting them with distinguished and senior research fellows for one-on-one mentoring by some of the most talented practitioners and researchers in the country. We're sending students out for experiential opportunities as well. This summer, 4 students will attend the prestigious International Security and Intelligence Program for a month in Cambridge. GNSI is also bringing a DC experience back to USF, as 6 students head to Washington, D.C. for a week in May. The students will immerse themselves in the heart of the country's national security enterprise, learning, connecting, and building future career pathways. And in just a couple weeks, we'll be hosting teams of students from across the country for a one-of-a-kind undergraduate strategy competition. Teams from Georgetown, Arizona State, Duke, Texas, Central Florida, and many others will be here, as well as 2 teams from universities in Poland. This momentum in GNSI, which General McKenzie was so integral in developing, will roll on, building upon his vision as the founding executive director of the Global and National Security Institute. Okay, it's time for a featured conversation today as we open up the microphones to our talented students. May Birch, no stranger to our At the Boundary audience, will take the lead in the conversation. She was the founding president of the Future Strategist Program and is currently the group's event coordinator. She's playing a vital role in developing their academic conference that will be part of our 2026 International Security Experience, April 14th through 17th here at the USF Tampa campus. Still room to attend. It's an in-person event only, but registration is required. May will be joined today by fellow FSP member Michael Dileonardo, who was one of the 4 students that presented their research at GNSI Tampa Summit 6. Also joining us today will be Kate Wood, a student from the University of Texas, and Connor Devanney from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, just across the state from us. Take it away, May.
Can we please go around and just give very brief introductions, maybe just your name, your year, and what you're studying? We can start with Michael.
Yeah, my name is Michael. I am a senior at University of South Florida studying international relations and intelligence studies.
Perfect. Connor, can you go next, please?
Yes, I'm a junior at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I'm studying global conflict studies with a focus in cybersecurity and intelligence.
All right, go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, my name's Catherine, or Kate. I'm a junior at UT Austin, and I study international relations and psychology with a focus on national security.
Hi, my name is May. I'm a senior at the University of South Florida, and I'm studying international relations with a concentration in legal studies. Okay, to kind of start us off, I want us to go around and talk about what each of our positions at the student conference are and what that entails. Can we start with you, Kate?
Yeah. So I'm going to be a moderator at the Privacy, Security, and Human Rights panel. And For me, that entails asking the panelists questions, prepping questions beforehand, and just making sure the conversation goes smoothly.
Similar to Kate, I'm going to be a moderator for the panelists. The panel I'll be working on is the future of technology, security, and intelligence. Very excited about it. My main role as a moderator is going to be similar to Kate, phrasing questions, taking questions from the audience, and just promoting a great conversation.
And then, Michael, I will be the moderator for the quantum panel again. Well, I guess last year I was a student policy presenter, but this year I'll actually be moderating the panel, which is interesting because it's a challenge for sure, complex topic, but always excited for it.
And what made you all decide to participate in the student conference? If you could start us off, Connor.
Yeah, I previously participated in the conference last year. I was a moderator for the Zero Trust and Critical Infrastructure panel, and I had a phenomenal time. Public speaking is something that I've always wanted to get more into. And it just seemed like a great opportunity to be a part of a really interesting and relevant conference, especially the student-led aspect of it. It spoke very highly to me.
And you, Kate?
Yeah, I agree with Connor. It's always great to find more opportunities for public speaking, and it's so difficult to find ones where you can do that as a student, especially in this context. To be moderating a panel as an undergraduate is a really rare opportunity, and something that was really exciting to me when I first heard about this opportunity.
Definitely the same thing, and supporting my fellow students as well. This is an FSP ran conference here at USF, and that's an exciting opportunity for me, but it's an exciting opportunity for everybody else too. So any way I can support and be a part of it, got me really excited. And beyond just the career opportunities it provides, the resume opportunities, just being around, being with my fellow students is exciting.
Perfect. And to kind of keep with the questioning on the student conference, what do each of you hope to gain from your participation in this student conference?
Well, having done it before, I think, one, I want to be more comfortable with my topic. It's quantum security, the future of quantum. So challenging myself to kind of learn more about that subject, not being too narrow with, what I'm interested in obviously has nothing to do with that, but that's obviously what I'll be moderating, what I'll be a part of. So using it as an opportunity just to broaden the scope of things that I know. So maybe it's being involved more, or listening more to Connor's panel or Kate's panel, which again might not be relevant to what I study, but just seeing what other students are interested in and seeing them take the lead on it, inspires me to learn more, as does, taking on a topic that I may not have already been, as knowledgeable about. Kind of gives you an opportunity to broaden your horizons.
Thanks, Michael. What about you, Connor?
I've got a few ones that obviously it's a pretty relevant panel that I'm going to be a part of. I'm going to get to ask some really strong professionals about some of their insights and thoughts into getting into intelligence. But on a more personal side, Dr. Goodman of the panel is the head of the ISI Cambridge program. And I would love to get to meet him before I actually attend that program, similar to you, May, as you did last year or last summer. I can't wait to just get to meet all these professionals and interact with them once more. It's a very engaging and academic environment. And it's probably my favorite part of this entire semester.
Perfect. And you, Kate?
Honestly, I wanted to do this because my first instinct was there's no way I can do that. It was so intimidating. I've had very little moderating experience, and as exciting as I think it is, it felt incredibly daunting as well. And so I would love to go through the process and come out with more confidence in my public speaking abilities on the other side. That's the main thing I'm hoping to get from this, but also just the opportunity to speak with really knowledgeable professionals in there and getting to pick their brains and just really foster a good dialogue that I hope is incredibly beneficial to the audience. That'll be very exciting.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. This is probably going to be my last question about the student conference in general, and then we can kind of switch fields into the strategy competition. Before joining, what were your expectations of the conference? And then now that you're involved, how is that experience kind of compared to what you initially might have expected? You can start us off, Kate.
I think my expectations and reality have been pretty well aligned. I thought there'd be a lot of good communication, which there has been. Thank you, May. And I wasn't expecting that practice Zoom or meeting that you've set up. And so that's been really nice because, like I said, this is a very daunting thing, I think, for most people. Maybe not for you guys, but I'm definitely intimidated, even though I'm also excited. And so that was a really welcome surprise to see that there is going to be some practice beforehand so we can figure things out.
Thank you, Kay. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I think having experience last year and also presenting at GNSI summits themselves, which feel a lot more pressure and daunting because it's a actual professional conference run by professionals. But I would say last year doing both, it felt very similar to me, which was really exciting. Like, wow, I had this insane opportunity to present at this conference, and then now we're doing a student-led one, and it feels the same way, which is an impressive remark on everybody involved. And then also just, I love what Kay said as well, being able to pick the brains of professionals and being there. Like when you're going in, it feels so daunting and so scary, but then you get there and the energy is so relaxing and so comforting because you are students, you are undergrad or graduate level students, and everybody there knows that. So actually, you end up overachieving your own expectations or people's expectations there because you're far capable enough to do it, and that you walk away with that feeling of like, okay, wow, I'm better off than I knew I was, and I can engage with these professionals and impress myself and impress them. And I think that's an experience students need before they jump into a career, a professional career post grad.
Thank you, Michael. And you, Connor?
Yeah, I'd say this time around, I feel a little more prepared and not as intimidated or nervous. I've had a few other opportunities here at Riddle to present to some professionals, some foreign executives, but I'm not going to lie. The first time around, I was sweating bullets. I have never my previous experience in public speaking was back in the 5th grade, and I froze on the stage. So as soon as I sat up there and I got in the chair and I was looking around, realizing this is real, this is going to happen, you're kind of faced with the reality of the moment. And I think it's a great character building and academic and professionalism, professional, I guess, building opportunity because you really kind of find out what you're made of in that moment. And then, like Michael said, it's a very relaxing, welcoming environment. Everyone there is supporting you, even if you don't know them. Similar to Kay, I'm from a different university, and this time around, there's going to be a little more competitive undertone of the strategy competition, but I'm very excited, and I think it's going to be another great conference.
Perfect, thank you guys. And before I move on to the strategy competition, I just want to say really quick that all of you guys were chosen for a reason, and I'm so very excited to watch how you guys all do in the conference. I have very high hopes and high expectations, but I'm sure you'll all meet them.
Thank you.
Of course.
No pressure though, right?
Absolutely no pressure. No. Okay. So for our kind of to switch lines, let's move to the strategy competition. What made all of you interested in competing in the strategy competition? You can start us off, Michael.
Well, the easy answer is that's like something I've always been interested in doing as a kid. Like just hearing that, strategy competition, it's like, oh, wow, okay, I want to do that. But on a serious note, I think it's important. I think the idea of bringing in students with different focuses to tackle, I know it's graded on, you have a political side, you have a military side, you have an economic side. So bringing in people that have maybe interest in all those things to work together to solve, complex, challenging issues. Obviously, we don't know what the hypothetical strategy, situation is going to be. But I think one that exposes you to different elements of policy and of strategy. And then also it allows you an opportunity to kind of showcase what you know in a way that's a little more freestyle. This is, it's not a panel that the topic's already chosen, or it's not a conference where the topic's already chosen. This is, how would you tackle this problem, knowing what you know and applied to what you are interested in, I think is, that excites me the most, be able to work with your fellow students in doing that. And, like Connor said, compete against other universities, sure, is awesome. And we'll always be there to represent. But at the end of the day, everybody's just going to get, an opportunity to showcase what they're all about.
Thanks, Michael. And you, Kate?
I love puzzles and any opportunity to try new puzzles and work my brain in a way that it hasn't been worked before is very fun. And I definitely try and seek those out. And I am not a policy person. I'm going to say that right now. Like, I have no experience writing policy. And so that just adds to the allure, frankly, of the competition. It's just another puzzle to be solved. And I think knowing the people that are on this team, my team already, and how brilliant they are, definitely made me more excited about joining, because I just love that teamwork element. And, multiple minds are better than one. And getting experience in something that I have zero experience in before, friendly competition, all those elements are coming together to make a competition that I think is really great. And I'm looking forward to immensely.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate. And finally, you, Connor?
Oh boy, I love an opportunity for competition and being competitive. I grew up playing sports. It's kind of one of the things that it's that little adrenaline boost of being in an unfamiliar situation. And yeah, I can't wait. But from a more academic and professional side, it's an opportunity for exceptional thinking, which is something that a lot of us here at Riddle we're taught about. We're taught about a lot of the historical cases of strategy and getting an actual hands-on opportunity to figure out what that's like and understand the career fields that we're going into and what it's actually going to be like. I myself, I'm not necessarily a policy guy. I'm more geopolitical assessment. But what I do love is building a team and getting to know all these people that I've gone to school with here. And maybe I haven't got to compete with them or actually learn what it's like to work with them. And this has provided us just an opportunity already to meet these people. And as Kate said, see all these kind of brilliant minds that are around me and form a really cool team with them. And hopefully do some pretty fun stuff here, this competition, and win.
And win.
That one in there.
Had to say that. So to kind of backpedal a bit, if describing this opportunity to someone who might be unfamiliar to what a strategy competition is or what it even looks like, how would you describe this and what you plan on doing? Connor, we can start with you, please.
Sweet. I'd either handle it in a few ways. Most likely, I'd try to use an analogy. It's similar to the Model UN clubs that a lot of students grew up around. You're given a problem. You're given something that you need. You're given a problem area, the end goal, and you have to form the pathways and all of the policies to get to that goal. And it's a pretty hard thing to do. You have to understand a lot of background historical components from multiple sides. Typically, these simulations are of a conflict, and you're trying to reach peace, and that is an insanely hard thing to do. We have, as we all know, we have multiple intelligence agencies and security agencies that employ people specifically to do this, and they don't just employ a 6-person team; it's hundreds of people. But it's a pretty fun event, and it's gonna push you to think outside the box, and you're gonna feel very uncomfortable and lost sometimes. But I think it's gonna be a great opportunity.
I like how Connor was getting into that kind of comparison to real life. Like there's an ongoing conflict, there's an ongoing dilemma, and let's just be honest. There's plenty of those happening right now. I think to the average student, or maybe the average person that's not as interested in it, they hear all the dialogue on the news, or they hear all the dialogue in their classrooms, their professors, or whatnot, and maybe have that in their own mind of like, okay, how are we going to get out of this, or how can we institute policy to achieve our goals? And it's fun to do that, in a social setting or maybe in a classroom setting, but actually being in the chair with fellow students from your university and trying to tackle that problem while being graded by real world professionals or academics, that is really exciting. And that's that's exactly how I would compare it to somebody. Just like Connor said, is imagine that was you in the chair, at the Pentagon or maybe for another country's capital, and you have to make these decisions and analyze the situation to achieve whatever your goal is. And I think that even changes. If I'm not exactly sure for this conference, but I'm pretty sure even you decide kind of what your end goal looks like and then how you're going to get there to achieve it to a certain extent. So that's interesting within its own right? Different teams are going to have different kind of outlooks on what success even is. And then, how efficient are they at instrumenting it? So, just drawing the parallels to real life, I think, to the average person of like, how would you handle this situation? I imagine doing that with a team with professionals.
Thank you, Michael and Connor. Before I turn it over to Kate to have her answer the question as well, I just want to say I liked the analogy with Model UN. I think that it may not be, entirely similar, but I do think for maybe a regular student, not someone that's interested in policy or someone who even follows the news regularly, as I'm sure we all know many students don't. I think that's a good, student-brained way of relating this competition, which might be so far out of the realm for so many people, to something that's very, very normalized and you can see in other aspects of college life. Because I do think that this is vastly different from what many students do. And I think it's even vastly different from my end of being into policy and, trying to follow the news and being into international relations and national security. I've never heard of or been in anything similar to this. So I do enjoy your guys' little analogies and then drawing it back to the real world, obviously, as Michael said. But Kate, can you please answer the question as well? Let me know.
Yeah, I really like how both of you guys described it. I think when you boil it down, it's just a logical exercise. You're taking a really complex geopolitical problem and, the kind of problems that you've got real professionals and they make entire careers out of this. So they're working on it at the same time. And then you're trying to develop a strategic level solution. And that can sound really esoteric and kind of like, what does that really mean? But so I think the UN example is a really good way of describing it, like May said. And that just ultimately you're trying to break down what seems like this really grand, intimidating problem into a solution that is actionable and understandable. And like y'all said, it typically focuses on a real world issue. You don't know what the topic will be this year. This is my first time doing strategy competition, so I'm excited to see what that process looks like. And yeah, you consider multiple factors: political, economic, military, diplomatic, and definitely fantastic way to model how senior leaders approach decision making. Because like you said, it's one thing to sit in your living room with all your friends and talk about how everyone's doing everything wrong, and another to be put in that position and have to go through those issues yourself and come with a coherent product at the end.
Thanks, Kate. I think Michael liked that last bit. To kind of add on to that as well, I think it's interesting to see. I talked to one of the GNSI members about this. I think it's interesting to see because I think part of it is almost like you have to calculate the amount of risk or the amount of damage you're willing to take. So let's say your threshold is like a 50% risk, right? Like every team is going to have a different strategy based off how much risk they're willing to take, and everyone's calculations for that will be different. And I think that's really interesting, is that you could have very brilliant people with the same backgrounds and the same education, and they would still come up with completely different outcomes and like what would be an acceptable amount of risk for the government to take in these policy recommendations. So I think that's really interesting. I'm really excited to see what everybody comes up with. And I will be cheering all of my panelists on throughout the competition because, since I chose you guys have to make it to at least the white paper round.
Oh, geez.
For my next question, what has been the most challenging part of preparing for the competition? Connor, you go first, please.
Yes, I think it would be a lot harder if we didn't have such kind of prepared professors here at Embry-Riddle. We have two professors kind of tutoring us. Not going to give away too much information here.
Connor, I'm really interested, please.
Yeah. Let me go pull up my files. Yeah. No, it's a pretty ambiguous question. A strategy competition. What does that even mean? What are we going to do? And I mean, since my freshman year, we had an in-class project about a certain conflict, and I really enjoyed that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is like the Model UN. So I kind of relied on some of my previous academic opportunities to be like, okay, we can do this. It's nothing too scary, even though it sounds, so complex and multifaceted and just high level. But honestly, yeah, just relying on my professors and also the people around me. Kind of like Catherine said earlier, we all like puzzles. So it's something that we all necessarily were fresh going into, didn't know what we were getting into, but we all like to solve puzzles. I think just having a good critical thinking group around me and some great professors leading us kind of helped us get a lot better prepared than I would have been.
Thank you, Connor. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, like Connor said, strategy competition is just so vague. Strategy of what? I mean, we get the prompt day of, like that's crazy. And so the way that we've been preparing, I think the way most people prepare is less trying to cram a bunch of information about current events, historical events, and more organize our thinking in a way that when we actually get to the competition, we know what to do and we're not overwhelmed, because we've been really lucky that we have a grad school team at the LBJ school that competes in these regularly. And they've been really fantastic mentors and have helped us a lot. And so I think just wrapping our heads around that organizational process, and actually, because it's very difficult also to try and simulate a 3-day competition when you're undergraduates with busy schedules. So I'd say also that's probably been the most difficult part, because you can practice, well, we're going to have this prompt and we're going to break it down this way and you tackle that and I tackle this. But doing that over a more extended timeline, well, still compressed, but longer than a 4-hour practice, that's been difficult, but also very rewarding to see how everyone's brains fits into this natural cycle and how we all begin to work together more smoothly.
Yeah, I like what Kate's getting at. There's the balance of your schedule and everything you have going on, and then also 4 or 5 other teammates and their life. And so, that's one challenge for sure. It's just getting everyone together in the same room and practicing consistently. But, and then even on top of that, like what Kate was saying, there's the kind of instinct to jam as much knowledge in your head as you can because you don't know what the subject's going to be. But I feel like I already do that every day with just geopolitics and security. That's like everything I try to read about every day and stay informed in my own ways. But what I don't do every day is bounce things off 5 other people and try to figure out how that information can be analyzed and assessed to build a strategy and what our desired outcome is. Because there's not always even agreement at the table with the 5 or 6 people you're with. And this isn't the real world. I'm not, it's not my job to, compel all of us to get together and agree. We have to all feel like, okay, we all like this, right, team? We're all good on this and move forward together so everyone feels, happy and a part of it. This is how things go, right? I mean, I didn't even know all my teammates before I was on my team. So building an interpersonal relationship on the team while also trying to understand complex geopolitical issues and prepare for a competition against schools from around the world with professionals is like 3 different little challenges in one. Thankfully, I think we have some great minds here at USF, and I'm confident we'll do great. But I feel like the challenge has already begun. Like they're saying, there's going to be this stuff that happens day of, but there's a challenge every day within the team. And world events keep changing, so it's like, what the heck could the strategy competition even be if some of these things are already ongoing? It just makes it more dynamic in the preparatory phase.
That's a good point. I think it's interesting to talk about how even within, when you're looking at policy, when you're looking at kind of things going on in the geopolitical sphere, it's interesting how everybody has different opinions. And, it could be the exact same event, but 3 different people could look at it differently, could have different opinions and different outcomes. So very interesting. I think it's interesting to bring a bunch of really brilliant minds together and to see what can come out of it. So I'm really, really, really excited. But to kind of switch gears a little bit to kind of talk about how Connor keeps bringing up how Model UN is a preparation for this. And we talked about how vague the concept of a strategy competition even is. Have any of you ever done anything similar to this strategy competition, or is this like the first time you've really heard of any opportunity like this?
Yes,
Yeah.
not Model UN, but Model NATO here at USF. We've sent teams to that conference a few times, and I had the pleasure of doing that. But it was similar in the sense where I had teammates I'd never really met or not worked with a ton, and we got certain situations going on or certain policy situations, and okay, what does Lithuania feel about this subject? How are we going to communicate that to the different countries, the different teams, from other schools? So from a team dynamic standpoint and reacting to the event progressing, have some experience with that, but not in the strategy, military political element. I think that this will be a refreshing new experience for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Connor?
Yeah, I had some experience in my opening semester here at Riddle, where we had a professor from I believe he was from the Naval Academy, and we did an in-class project, and it was a strategy competition. We were given a random situation. It was a conflict between India and Pakistan, and at that point, I was still kind of getting into the geopolitics, global conflict studies course, and that was my only experience leading into it. I remember the first question I asked to my teammates, who were people from my class who I never really talked to that much, was, anyone here done Model UN? Because I have not. And yeah, I think that was the only resounding experience that I have, aside from, certain online games where it's like conflict simulations. That's really my only major experience.
Thanks, Connor. It's kind of funny that you've already done this for a class. I think that's the first time I've heard somebody say that, actually. And
yeah, honestly, I didn't even realize until when I was saying it just a few moments ago. I was like, oh, wait, actually, I have done this before. Huh.
That's cool. Gives you a head above the competition.
Maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, I like the range of experience we've got going on here, because I'm coming in with basically nothing. I went to a really small high school, so we didn't have Model UN there. And then I wasn't really compelled to join it here because I started off as an engineering major and found my way to international relations a bit irregularly. So now this is my first experience in in a strategy competition of this kind. I have some experience writing geopolitical analytical pieces, but that's a very different beast to policy writing. And so I'm very excited I've learned a lot already through just team practices and talking to people. And this is their entire job. Essentially, this is what they want to do the rest of their life. And it's interesting how I think I say I don't have any experience, but it's interesting how the experience that you wouldn't really think about helps you the most. Like the team building experiences that you have in high school and in college, I think have been more valuable to me than any writing experience I've had. So yeah, that's been interesting.
Kate, I'm really curious how you got into geopolitics at all, coming from engineering, like you said, irregularly. Just to understand like different people, how they, move into that. I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I think I say that it was kind of irregular. I was always attracted to, I wanted to be an engineer because I wanted to go to med school, and I thought that would be my ticket in. I was a biomedical engineering major my first year and a half here. And then I realized the only reason I wanted to be a doctor is so I could work for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. It's like, well, if I want to travel, if I want to work abroad, there's an easier way I could do that and still feel fulfilled. And and so then I kind of stumbled into the national security space here at UT and loved it, loved the people, loved the opportunities. And here I am.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Thanks, Kate. And thanks, Michael, the host.
Sorry, I just I'm trying to connect with, people at the conference.
Yeah. Kate, if it makes you feel any better, I really had no experience with this beforehand. I did do Model UN, but the committee that I competed on was a Bridgerton committee. So I'm not sure how much of that can be pulled over. But on the Bridgerton committee, I did become the king of England and Prussia. So,
Oh.
I feel like I won that Bridgerton committee pretty easily. But Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting to see how everybody's kind of from very different backgrounds. I do think obviously Connor has like a clear cut background for this, but I think outside of Connor, this is out of left field for a lot of people. And I think that's how it is going to be for most of the students at this competition. So I am really excited to see how that goes and to see what everybody learns, because I think this could probably be one of the biggest learning experience for students, but especially for students interested in like national security and geopolitics. Like, this is definitely a new experience. How do you feel the entire like international security experience? So that's the conferences and the strategy competition. How do you think all of that will benefit students, considering they're trying to keep this going annually? What do you think students should take away from it? What advice would you give students that want to participate? And how do you think it'll end up becoming a beneficial resource for students interested in these topics? Kate, can we start with you, please?
Yeah, I'd love to start. So I think first off, I just kind of gave a little spiel about my background and how I got here, not in a very normal way. Like, I didn't come into university thinking this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And so I think opportunities like this can really open the world of national security to an audience that would have never considered it as a viable career path for them, or even something that is a career path. And so that alone is valuable. And then I think there's the reverse. You're introducing this world, this sphere of thinking to an audience that can also add a lot back. Like, you've got the engineers. I know an architecture major that's now going to work in intelligence. And that's a very unique way of thinking that is then going to lend itself to the wider community in a very beneficial way. And so it's definitely a symbiotic process, I would say. And that's the beauty of education, is you're learning things that you didn't even know were out there. You're widening your horizons. And so I'm very excited that this is not only a student-run conference, but that it's definitely geared towards students, not just in the student-run section, but it's geared towards students all around. So you have something geared towards students in practice, on the educational side, in public speaking, and all around. It's just aiming towards making that student experience richer and deeper. And so, yeah, that's my spiel on that. I think it's just fantastic all the way around.
Thanks for that, Kate. To kind of add to that, I completely agree. I think that there's a need for a wide berth of people from different backgrounds, people that had different educations, people with different careers. National security isn't just for your political science and international relations students. It's also for your engineers and your mathematicians. It's not just for this certain cut of students. It's for anybody that really wants to get involved. And there's so many ways that you can get involved and that you can have a career in it. And so I think this is a really interesting way to bring students in and, see if they'd be interested in it and see if maybe they can apply their own individual skills to it. So I completely agree, Kay. I'm glad that you brought that up.
And can I add something really quickly? I was just thinking about it as you were talking again. It's not just, while it's super important, like we both mentioned, that this can bring a lot of really unique perspectives into the national security space, in that they're trying to find new careers. It's also, I think, just a really valuable method of civic engagement. Like, education in this space, you talked about at the very beginning of the podcast, a lot of people don't stay up to date with the news. They don't know what's going on. And that can be because it feels really overwhelming and inaccessible. And so, again, conferences like this can really break it down in a way that's manageable, and then not only ignites passion, but just makes for a more well-rounded populace.
Thanks, Kay. I completely agree. And I hope to see a lot of beautiful bonds being created at this competition between all of these wonderful teams that are coming. Michael?
I don't know. Connor sounds like he's not interested in that.
He's only interested in winning, actually.
That's okay. So am I. But I love what both of you guys are saying. I mean, that is critical to American national security at the end of the day, having full spectrum, all hands on deck. I could talk all day about the implications of, and the strategic implications of air defense systems. But at the end of the day, I'm going to need somebody who actually understands the physics of it and the engineering side of it and all those things. So it's great to know that, it's important from an education standpoint that we're preparing people from every field, from every subject, at least some portion of them to be able to participate in national security, geopolitics, intelligence, because we need everybody. So I love both of you guys are saying that. And events like this provide maybe the best opportunity, at least at a university like USF, bringing in other universities from around the world, from allied countries, from other states, allows people like Kate who, there might not be someone like Kate at USF. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. But because we're doing this, I mean in the sense that, she was an engineering student, biomedical engineering, and then now found her way into security and intelligence. There's only so many people like that. And events like this, provide an opportunity for all of us to get together and to learn from each other and compete as well, which I think is important as well. My answer to your question would be just students should be in situations where they're afraid, where they feel unprepared, they maybe feel scared. They're going to come out on the other end better from that, more confident to take on even more challenging things. That's been my experience with GNSI and FSP at certain events. It can be somewhat humbling. You might realize areas where you need to grow, where you need to be better, that you may not have realized, but it may also affirm to you like, wow, okay, I actually know a lot about this and I can get up on stage and speak about it. And then when I do it again, here's how I'm going to prepare better. I heard Connor talking about this and saw his team doing this. Man, you know what? I thought I was really great. Maybe I need to kind of learn a little bit from that and grow. Because at the end of the day, at some point, hopefully, we'll all be working together for our country, for what we believe in. And the fact that at this level, we're already making each other better, we're already having these experiences. That's that's how I think America succeeds in the future.
Thank you, Michael. Ever the idealist. I think that you definitely have an interesting perspective on it as well, since this is your second year in a row being on our quantum panel, knowing absolutely nothing about quantum. So I think it's probably a fair point specifically for you having to bring in that background and having people from other backgrounds come in, because, we have such a struggle finding people to do quantum in national security and talk on that topic. And I think it's because sometimes national security seems like such a big, scary topic to broach, especially for these students doing quantum. Like, they think that they can only really do hackathons or they can only really do computer science stuff. But you never realize it's actually very necessary and important in national security. And so we unfortunately have to keep relying on Michael to sit on our panel and teach himself some stuff about quantum before our conferences. So yes, no, if you're hearing this, please, quantum students, please join FSP. Okay, please join FSP. If you're willing to learn quantum, please join FSP. You're dearly needed. I
say that if Connor or Kate's team, whoever comes below the other in the competition, they have to do quantum
next year, because we're probably at this rate, we're gonna have it every year. Okay, I'm sorry, Connor. I know it took a while to get to your turn, but what would be your response to my earlier question?
I think simply enough that your career isn't going to make itself. Opportunities aren't going to hand themselves over to you. Opportunities like these, it can be easy to look at your email, get a notification about an event happening, a conference occurring at your university or at another university, and simply just being like, oh, another email. Awesome. But if you really see these opportunities and take them as an event that you can go to, you can learn about another field that you may have not considered, because we're students, we're young. I'm 20 years old. I know next to nothing about like careers and intelligence and what it's actually like. It's an opportunity to see what it actually is like. And also, again, nothing is going to hand itself over to you. It's a place to network. It's a place to hopefully kind of find a job, which is a pretty important thing nowadays. That's how I see it, and why I even took the opportunity this year and even last year, aside from obviously it's a great event to speak at and to meet all the other students. But yeah, especially in the geopolitical world or the intelligence careers, anything like that, if you don't want to work at governmental, or if you do want to work governmental and federal government, that's not just going to happen. No one's going to randomly come up to you and just here's your job application. You're in. You have to take the opportunity to present yourself, and that's really how I see it.
Yeah, can I just add one thing to that, May? I love what Connor's saying, because whether it's being on quantum panel when I don't know anything about quantum, or for you guys driving out to another university to compete in something, saying yes to every opportunity, even if it doesn't completely make sense or you feel comfortable with it right away. Just say yes to as many opportunities as you can, as long as it's tailored somewhat to what you're interested in or what you're trying to do. I think that's the best way to grow and to get opportunities. So it's exciting to see that, whether it's Connor or Kate, different backgrounds, different interests, different places in the country, saying yes to an opportunity and just going for it, even if it feels scary or it's far away. That's awesome, and I'm proud of all of us to be a part of it, and thankful for the opportunity.
Thanks, Connor and Michael. I think that was a good tidbit right there. I would completely agree on opportunities. There have been a lot of times that I thought that I shouldn't apply for an opportunity, or I shouldn't do this or that. And then I applied, I got in, and I had a world of a time. I think even back to the Cambridge International Security and Intelligence program, I wasn't going to apply. And I applied the week of the deadline, and I got in, and I said yes to it, and I had the time of my life. So yes, I think that this is kind of one of those things that you see the opportunity, you take it upon yourself, whether it's scary, whether it's new, whether you don't think that you'll do a good job, and then you just try your hardest and you see where you end up, and you never know when you guys might win. And if you guys are win, I'll be clapping you guys on the stage, but I do hope it is a USF team that wins, because sorry, I have to have that some sort of loyalty to USF. But if it's one of the teams with my panelist on it, it's like basically USF
so
team.
Now you're rooting for okay.
It's basically a USF team. Wow. Okay, Michael, you don't have to be upset. It's okay.
It's okay.
I'll cheer on you and Garrett as well. I just really want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank you guys for all of the work that you've put in, for all of the ridiculous communication you've had to put up with, because I do know I probably blow your emails and phones up. But thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for answering all these questions to the best of your ability. And I'm so very excited to meet you guys and, well, to meet you in person, Kate, and to watch how you guys all flourish both in the conference and in the competition. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
I want to thank our guests today, May Birch and Michael Dileonardo, both members of the GNSI Future Strategist Program, as well as Kate Wood from the University of Texas and Connor Devanney from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. May is the primary organizer behind the upcoming academic conference being hosted by FSP, while the other three are playing key roles in the event as well. There's still room to attend this in-person event, but we do ask that you complete the free registration in advance. There'll be a link in the show notes. Next week on the podcast, we're going to visit with another group of students involved in the 2026 International Security Experience. However, we're going to zero in on the first ever USF undergraduate strategy competition. Our guests will be a pair of USF students taking part in that competition, which will feature teams from across the country, along with 2 teams from Poland. The competition is modeled after the one run by the U.S. Army War College and is another great example of the beyond the classroom learning opportunities we've created to prepare USF students for careers in national security. If you don't want to miss that episode or any other episode, be sure to like and subscribe to At the Boundary on your favorite podcast platform. And we do thank you for sharing some time with us today. You can find GNSI on YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Tell your friends and colleagues as well. And you should definitely check out our monthly newsletter. All this is on our website, usf.edu/GNSI. That's going to wrap up this episode of At the Boundary. Each new episode will feature global and national security issues we found to be insightful, intriguing, maybe controversial, but overall just worth talking about. I'm Jim Cardoso, and we'll see you at the Boundary.